Hi, Tom. It's good to have you with us today. So Tom is based out in Perth and has a graphite project in Madagascar, and he's taking some time with us this morning to talk about his project. So Tom, just to kick off with, when it comes to investing in African mining, and specifically in Madagascar, what is your attention today in the current environment?
The current environment is not too dissimilar to most of sub-Saharan Africa. I think you'll find that there are certainly there's closures from international coming in. And Madagascar, of course, has the advantage of being an island. And so the idea of closing borders is probably somewhat easier to initiate than in most places on the mainland. The incidence of COVID-19 in country at the moment is growing, but it is still relatively at a low base compared to some of the other countries around the world or its peers in Africa. But we all know it wouldn't take much to flare up. In terms of our activities, we're still doing some work on the project. We are limited in terms of what we can do on site, but we're hoping that some of the regional borders might be opening up in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I mean, it's true that I think, as you said, COVID has changed a certain way of doing business. So maybe you can go a bit more detail on that. Like what has changed to do business in Madagascar for you, or even Africa, if you look at other projects? What has really changed dynamic? And has it changed the business model of BlackEarth at all? Or are you just rethinking the way you're going to do business and operation?
We're extremely lucky, just starting with BlackEarth first. What we decided late last year was that we were going to dig or mine 60 tonne of material from Maniry and ship it off to a pilot plant in China. We finished that in January and managed to get that material out late February.
Good timing.
On its way to China. So it was fortuitous. However, during the particularly bad panic session around the world in that March, April, May type period, our material's on a ship and it was headed for China to be tested, and so that didn't have any influence at all whatsoever on what we were doing. In terms of in country, I guess we were planning on potentially doing some drilling a little bit earlier on site towards looking at things such as hydrogeological holes and geotech holes as part of the feasibility study. That's been delayed, but it really hasn't had an impact on the project schedule as such, because it really doesn't matter when you do that. As long as it gets done within probably the next 4 or 5 months, we should be all right. So our plan is still to finish the feasibility study next year, probably either late Q1 or into Q2 is the plan at this stage. And as far as any other influence, look, as a board, we sat back fairly early on in the piece and said, how do we turn what is a global pandemic disaster into an opportunity? So we've been looking at ways of taking advantage of that, whether it's looking at other graphite-related opportunities, or how we can accelerate certain things, perhaps how we can get some things done cheaper and the like. So we've really been looking at how to take advantage of the situation, despite a lot of people obviously incurring a lot of pain and anguish during that same period of time.
I mean, you know what they say, don't let the crisis go to waste. So I think it's just a way of being more resilient. Yeah. And outside of, thank you for giving me some update on the project. It's good to know that actually you're tracking, on pause what you wanted for next year. And have you looked at other projects either in Madagascar or somewhere else in Africa that has, raised your attention?
Look, we're constantly reviewing opportunities. We're looking at all graphite related. So we're looking at opportunities as they come up in, particularly in East Africa, in Australia, even in North America. And not just on the mining concentrate production side of things, but also potentially downstream processing and the like. So we've been looking at constantly how we can add value to shareholders. We said it from the outside in our prospectus, and we always put money aside for looking at other opportunities, particularly in Madagascar, where we now have a strong foothold, and Australia, which is our home base, where we can do things to add value.
That's good. And I hope that the project will see the light really soon. And I have a question. Do you have any don't and do tips for any junior that are actually wishing to invest in Africa? And I'm thinking before COVID, but after COVID, what did you learn investing in that region, and what would you recommend for anyone that's really looking for it and looking to invest?
Yeah, good question. I think basically when you're looking at Africa, you have to understand that you have to go in with the same moral and ethical standards that you would apply to any project that you do in your own first world backyard. These sort of opportunities, as they arise, shouldn't be taken advantage of. You're operating in somebody else's backyard. You have to pay respect to that. And really, by building a mining project, I think you're kind of leaving a legacy behind. And it's something that you really need to make sure works for all stakeholders. So that would be my overarching thought. In terms of Africa specifically, I guess there's always issues associated with things such as corruption, personal safety, disease, access to infrastructure, and those sort of things. The basics of any project still comes down to the fundamentals, irrespective of where it comes from. You've got to have a technically and financially robust project. Geopolitically, you have to operate in the right environment where you can actually get a project built. You've got to operate with the right team and engage with all the stakeholders. You've got to have a product at the end of the day that's in demand, and you've got to, basically ensure that you minimise the risk across a whole raft of areas to ensure that at the end of the day you can deliver and produce the goods for the shareholders.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's having a big picture and the long-term vision. So you think there's some good opportunities for any juniors, because I know that's been something that we've been talking about a lot, is that junior mining is the future of African mining. So having you here is really encouraging, I think.
Yeah, look, BHP, Rio, Vale, they all started as small companies, and people have to remember that. And for governments, regional or federal level, they need to understand that small miners, if they're worked with effectively, can add tremendous value to all stakeholders in the country. And in return, the shareholders of the companies do well. So it really is a win-win situation, but it's got to be approached the right way.
Good. Thank you for that. And I hope that some junior that we're watching us we get some hope after COVID that everything is possible. Thank you so much, Tom, for that few words with us and sharing your experience. And we hope to see you soon when we can finally travel one day.
Absolutely. Much appreciated, and take care.
Thank you, Tom.